Hey everyone, this is Big Rig, and today I'm going to show you how I made these two logo lights and paid off my 3D printer. I'm also going to be doing a giveaway of these two light boxes, so if you want to find out how to get one of these for your own, stick around to the end of the episode to find out. So without further ado, let's jump into it.
For the Nintendo sign, I just found this model on thingiverse.com, downloaded it, printed it off, and I was good to go. But then somebody approached me and asked, could you make this but a halo light? So I got thinking and I got to work. The first thing I did was go to Google Images and find a clean halo logo. Then I took the PNG, uploaded it to this website where it converts it to an SVG, and downloaded that file. Then I opened up Tinkercad, a free web-based CAD design program. Then all you need to do is import and upload the SVG file. And voila, we have our halo letters. From there, I made a copy of the O and scaled it up to be the outer wall of the light. Then I cut out a hole to make most of the shell hollow. Afterwards, I made a small oval, which will become the translucent plate that the letters will sit on. Then, using the letters, I made a tiny indent onto the plate so I knew where to put the letters after everything was done printing. Next up, I made the backing plate with a small hole so the wires could be threaded through it. And finally, I created this little wedge shape so no light would leak out of the box. And voila! The design is complete. Now all we have to do is print it. And right here I'm going to show you why I hate printing with the material PETG. For beginners, stick to PLA if you can. Otherwise, this can happen. Alright, so now we have all of our parts and our letters. I had to reprint the outer shell because that, and I ended up adding a layer of acrylic paint to kind of hide some of the layer lines. And then I sealed in the paint with this gloss spray to give it a nice shiny finish. Now our first step is to get out the hot glue gun and to seal in this clear front plate. Make sure you don't accidentally have this upside down. Next, we're going to use the small indentations on our plate and glue in the letters. Next, it's time to talk electronics. This is an LED strip I bought off of Amazon for about $10. It's about 16 feet long, so you can make about 10 lights before the strip runs out. For this strip, you need exactly 12 volts and at least 1.5 amps from your power supply. So that means it's time to go to your Goodwill, scrounge around the electronics section, and find a plug that meets these requirements. Ideally, you'd be able to find these for about $1 a piece. This one's exactly 12 volts and 2 amps, so this will be more than good enough for this strip. Now you have a few options for connecting your power supply to your LED strip. If it's your first light, you can actually just use the barrel jack directly and plug it right in. But if you're using the rest of your LED strip, you're going to have to do one of two options. First, you can directly solder your positive and negative wires to the strip, and then you can hot glue them into place to make sure the wires never cross. This is actually what I did for my Nintendo lights, but I recently discovered an easier and safer method. A pack of 15 of these can be found on eBay for about $8. And after you get them open, after you get them open, all you have to do is peel back these tabs, put the strip in, close it up, and you're good to go. No solder required. Full disclosure, I still soldered the tabs to the strip because I'm a bit extra. But before we move on, we're going to need to take our wedge and glue it into place. There was a little bit of a gap because I didn't engineer this perfectly, so I just kind of filled that in with hot glue. It's not perfect, but it still looks fine. Finally, peel back the paper and use the adhesive to stick it into the inner wall. Then, snip off the very edge of your strip and glue down your tab connector. Now it's time to take your backing plate and thread the wires through the hole. You'll notice I added a little wedge to the bottom of it because I needed another place to screw in some holes. Speaking of which, you should find some cheap wood screws because it's time to start drilling.
And of course, when you're working with power tools, you always want to make sure that safety is first.
After I screwed in the backing plate, I noticed that there was still a little bit of a gap in the top right corner, so I did the professional thing and just kind of taped it down with some electrical tape. Look, nobody cares what the back looks like, alright? You know what time it is? That's right, it's
solder time.
First thing you're going to want to do is take your wire stripper and strip off the ends of both the red and the black wire. Now keep in mind that the red is going to be your power, while the black is going to be your ground. Then snip off the barrel jack from your power supply, and separate the wires and strip them individually. The wire with the white stripes is going to be your positive or your power, and the wire without any markings is going to be your ground or your negative. Now you want to be careful, because this is what we call a death wire. And it's called that because if you plug in this wire and complete the circuit by touching the positive and the negative, you are dead, dead, dead. But seriously, do not plug in the cord while it's in this state. Anyway, the next thing you're going to want to do is take the ends of your positive wires, twist them up, and take the ends of your negative wires and twist them up as well. Now, you can apply your solder. Now, technically, you could just tie them up and wrap it around in electrical tape, but I like to go a step beyond because I'm a professional. Now that the wires are connected with solder, I'm going to take some electrical tape and wrap them up. Then I'm going to take my hot glue gun and seal the ends so my tape doesn't come off. Now, technically, you're supposed to take some shrink tube and heat it with a heat gun, but I don't have any of that, so this will have to do. I'm a professional. Now all that's left to do is plug it in and see if it works. So it isn't working. After a bit of an investigation, I found out that I attached my light strip backwards, with the positive facing the negative and the vice versa. But after fixing all of that up, I plugged it in, and shazam! We have light. Now let me break down how exactly I went about selling all of these light boxes. For the Nintendo light boxes, the print time took about 24 hours, so I thought $60 was reasonable. And I was able to sell all of the lights within a week to my coworkers. If you don't have enough of a network of family and friends to sell to, you could always go to Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist, and I'm sure there's plenty of people in your area that would love to snatch one of these up. For the Halo light, I tacked on an extra $15 because it took me time to design the light, and I had to get some extra materials as well. If you want to take in custom orders, I'm sure most people with expendable incomes will be more than happy to spend $75 for a completely custom-made light. And these were just my rates. You can adjust these prices to however you want. I just recommend keeping it within a reasonable price point. Now the 3D printer I use, the Ender 3, cost me about $200, and each spool of filament will cost you about $20 each. So that makes the total around $300. So that means all you would have to do is sell about 6 or 7 lights and you would completely break even. And now you have a fun 3D printer that already paid for itself.
Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. Now, if you go to the description below, you can see all the rules for this contest. Unfortunately, this contest is only open to residents of the United States. And when it comes to the other rules, let's just say subscribing is involved. Did you have any ideas of any logo lights you would like to make? Let me know in the comments below. And if you liked the video, give a thumbs up. And if you didn't, give a thumbs down and tell me what I can be doing better. I'm Big Rig, and keep trucking on.